everybody, please join me in an opening prayer. Dear most beloved Heavenly Parents, true parents, thank you so much for gathering us here on this beautiful Sunday morning. Even though there are clouds and there have been rain, we're so glad to all of our family to join in this warm and welcoming spirit that we want to create with you, our Heavenly Parent, and our true parents today, Heavenly Parents. So please be here with us and enjoy this time and join in our fellowship and join in our love and this message today that we will hear, and I report this in all of our names here and all of our family members. Amen. Aju. Please take this time to greet your neighbor and say hello.
My
Please welcome up our pastor, Pastor Joshua Holmes.
Let's give a round of applause to our Los Angeles band. If you can just join me in prayer as we keep the music going. Beloved God, our Heavenly Parent, true parents in Jesus, we thank you. Our heart is that we want to offer ourselves to you because we know that that's what will bring you the most joy and also in return will make us feel the most joy. God, but we go through a lot of trials and a lot of challenges. Pray, God, that as we navigate those together as a family, God, that we can find ourselves closer to you and that those crosses that we bear don't have to be so painful. And we can understand why we bear them and we can feel the joy and the excitement of standing in your providence as your central figures in this modern era. So we humbly ask that you can feel invited into this space, and we offer it all to you. In everyone's name here, in Joshua and Takayo Holmes' name, as a blessed central couple, I pray. Amen. All right. Yeah, thank you so much. You can be seated. And if you could take a moment and turn to a neighbor, and don't let anyone talk to themselves. This is not between them and God. It's between them and each other. If you could just share 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 things that you're grateful for, just off the top of your head, just share with someone next to you and share your gratitudes. If you finish gratitudes, you can just share one highlight from your week. Just something that excited you this week. Something that stood out to you. You can thank your neighbor. Give him a high five. Give him a low 5, middle 5. Work on that handshake. Wow. Okay. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. You know, today is a special day, and yesterday as well, because this past week we celebrated Hyojinim's 15th anniversary since his passing on March 17th. 15th anniversary. Let's give Hyojinim a round of applause. And, you know, this is my favorite photo of Hyojinim that I have. And I found it in a book somewhere, and I took a photo, and then I edited it. I don't know how it got to that, but it's so, you can feel his heart, right? You can see his spirit, and the tears are slowly emerging from his eyes. And I think it's an expression. For those that don't know, Hyojinim was Father Moon's first son, his first son. And of course he passed away, but he was someone that Father and Mother Moon looked towards as a son of true filial piety. Filial piety means or hyojung is the word we use, is one's loyalty and love with their parents. It wasn't just a sense of duty. Actually, Mother Moon says it's not enough just to be dutiful. You're just duty-wise, duty because they're my parents. But because my parents deeply love me and I deeply love my parents, I am loyal. So it's a loyalty motivated out of love, and that was Hyojinim's entire life. And so many of you know his story, some of you don't know as much, but Hyojinim's life was riddled with challenges. And some would even say that he made serious mistakes. He fell into, Yonanim, his wife, would say when he passed away, I was reading her words, and she said, I think I think God needed Hyojinim because he understood hell. And that's why he had to pass, so that he could figure out what was going on in hell and get those people, pull them out. Because Hyojinim, and for those that knew him deeply, knew this about him. He really understood what hell was like. He went there. He spent time there. But what was amazing about him in all those things that happened, he never lost the loyalty and love. He crawled his way out. Despite the world pushing him away, he crawled his way out. And in his final years, he fully offered himself. Fully offered himself. To the point where Mother Moon says that one of the, she just trusts Hyojinim. She can trust in him because of what he did. So I say this up, but if I was defined by the mistakes that I made in the past, there's no way I would be able to stand right here. There's no way. So he's not defined by those things. He's defined by how he chose to not just conclude his life, but what he never gave up on. What he was committed to at the very end in his dedication. Amen? Amen. So I love Hyojinim. For me, I feel an affinity towards him. I listen to his words, and I feel God speaks to me and pours his soul into me. And that moves me. And so what I want to do to open is, I feel to honor his life, you need to hear his words. You need to see his heart poured out in the way that he presented himself before others. So I'm going to show you 2 videos. Is that okay? 12 minutes. In the first video is his final speech. The final speech he ever gave in Belvedere. It was his sermon. And it was 8 days before he passed. And you may not, I'm going to be honest, with Hyojinim, you don't always understand what he's saying. And that's okay. What I want you to hear is his heart. What I want you to hear is his heart. And you can tell he knows where he's going. He knows what's going to happen. So listen to his heart. And then the second video is a video of Hyojinim in Pasadena House in 1994, in March 23rd, 1994. And he sings this beautiful song in Pasadena House. So we'll play it, and please just listen to his heart.
Is everybody here committed to something? When you think about commitment, what does it mean to you? Why do you want to commit to something? Because it defines you. Any kind of commitment that you make will define you, and you'll be judged. That's why you commit to something. Because you know, life is about learning something, and it's short, very short. About what makes you good? What makes you right? Even business, you know. Give you money. You have responsibility. You have commitment. You gotta give that money off and make them profit. Otherwise, I don't think you're gonna get another opportunity. So even just dealing with money, when you're committed, that's what it is. Now think about yourself. What are you thinking? What terms of thinking are you committed to? What are you reaching out to understand? Now, take that to the next level. Spirituality. You have to have spirit, mind, and body together to be perfect. That's crazy stuff. That's what you ought to do, basically. So, where do you stand? Don't look at the person next to you. Answer that to yourself. You ask that question to yourself, and you answer it to yourself. And that's where you stand. Have I seen crap? I'll probably see more. That's where I stand. And how do I get better? Following the basics. Doing the basics. Doing what is right. No other way. Do you feel big sometimes? But it keeps a shit. If it ain't real. It's about you. You think we're living in this world just to think about me? It's not about me. It's about us. That's why it hurts. What the hell is family anyway, right? Man and woman come together and make family. What the hell is that? Is it I? Or is it we? And you will die. finds you, then in judgment. And you better know what that is. Okay. And I always sing an Elvis Presley song. There must be a light burning brighter somewhere. Got to be birds flying high up in the sky, more blue. If I can dream of a warmer sun, where hope keeps shining on everyone, tell me why, oh why can't my dream come true? Oh why, there must be peace and understanding sometimes. Strong winds of promise that will blow away my doubt and fear. If I can dream of a warmer sun, where hope keeps shining on everyone, tell me why, oh why can't my dream come true? With too much rain, we're trapped in a world that's troubled with pain. But as long as a man has the strength to dream, he can redeem his soul and fly. Deep in my heart, there's a trembling question. Still, I'm sure that the answer's gonna come somehow. Out there in the dark, there's a backlighting candle. While I can talk, while I can walk, while I can think, while I can stand, me and my dream come true right now.
That's a She Get This song? Mashiko, if you remember them. Mayun-san and Uncle Rick. Wow. Looking good, Uncle Rick. Let's give a round of applause to Hyojin. Thank God. I think Hyojin embodies that song. He's a man that was truly scarred by the life that he was handed, choices, but in the end, he had this dream that he never gave up on. And in that song it says, a man can redeem his soul as long as he never gives up on the dream. And I really believe Hyojin was a man that God trusted. God trusted Hyojin. And Mother, when we're talking about the current time we're in now, I tell Takayo, I think about all of what Mother Moon has said over the last, 10 years, and I just hear the same thing over and over again, which is, it's just like, she's looking for people like Hyojin. People who have a dream that don't give up. And so she has these words, right? She sings this song to us a few days ago. It's a song she composed, and it goes like this. She goes, a pine tree standing tall in front of Cheonjeonggung Palace, evergreen, unchanging through the seasons. Your name is Il-sung-jung. Oh, I love you, Il-sung-jung. You are the hope of Cheonyeoguk, as you are the dream of your brothers and sisters who love you. You are the pride of Cheonyeoguk that shines forever. Oh, I love you, Il-sung-jung. You are the pride of Cheonyeoguk. Did you like it? Did my heart touch yours? Please flourish forever, like evergreen pine trees that are unchanging throughout the 4 seasons. That's Mother's song. When I hear that song, the pride of the kingdom of heaven is someone who is evergreen like a pine tree. I was walking outside, and right outside of, I don't know if it's even a pine tree, but it's evergreen. Right outside of Pasadena House is that big tree, right? That's an evergreen, right? I hope so. It doesn't change throughout the seasons. It's rooted deep. The roots are deep, and that tree will forever stand throughout the seasons unchanging. That's someone who has, that heaven can look on with pride, that heaven can trust. And so the question for us and for me is whether God can trust me. Can God trust you? Really ask yourself honestly, can God trust you? And in the solace of your own self, Hyojin says, don't look at the other people. This is between you and God. Does God trust you? And the mistakes that we make are not what define the trust. I've made so many mistakes yesterday. What defines the trust is whether I'm committed and still going. Whether I'm still going. And whether I face the tests, the challenges of life. And I'm willing to go through it. If I'm willing to go through it, if I'm committed, it doesn't matter if I stumble along the way, as long as I'm committed and I keep going, then God can trust me. So the question is, in your own heart of hearts, do you feel that God can trust you? The baseline for me is this, that God cannot work with a central figure, with any of us, with me, that he does not trust. And we earn God's trust. Just like how any friend in your life, they don't just get and are afforded the opportunity of trust from me. I don't trust Mama D just because she walked into my life. I trust Mama D because she's in a very beautiful way. She's earned that trust. Okay. When I was in New York, there was only one person who called me more than my dad. And that was Mama D. She called me more than my mom. Takayo also called me more. But, that there's a trust that's earned. And we fortify that. We earn that trust through the fortification of our faith. My piety. My heart. Your children, they earn your trust. They earn the ability to get out and go out into the world, cross that street without holding your hand, if they are someone worth trusting. They earn it. And then we can make a difference in the world for God. We can make all the difference in the world, but it may not even be for God. It may not be for God. But if you want to make a difference in the world for God, God's got to trust you. God's got to trust that he can use you. So can God trust me? And why that matters is that we want to serve God in some way because it gives us purpose. Hyojinim was a man of purpose. He knew what he was going towards. A man of purpose. And that's why what you can feel when he speaks. How many of us have a video of ourselves pouring out our heart like that? How many of us can claim a victory of that nature, of vulnerability and of depth? I don't have that. It's a man of purpose, and we all long to be and end up there in the final days of our life. When the world comes to your Seonghwa, comes to mine, what do they say you were? Who was I? Was I someone with true purpose? However, our ability to serve God is limited on how much God can trust us. And we all have the potential for God to trust us. Otherwise, he would have never called you. He would have never called you if he didn't believe that you were someone he could trust. Do you all understand? We're here for a reason. We have a reason we're here. Because God believes in us. So to go deeper into this, I feel like I need to talk about Abraham. And the reason is actually I don't know, but Mother Moon is currently in America. And she actually called all of our leaders a few days ago, last week, to Hawaii to meet her. And so she did this, she spoke to them in the morning, grilled them in the morning, loved them in the evening, and gave them a little, slap or two. And she gave some awesome words. And then in between, she had them go through an education, kind of a workshop together. And the workshop that they had them go through, it was to study Abraham's course. So my conclusion to you all today is very simple. When you go home and during this week, I want you to open up your divine principles and study Abraham's family. Abraham's course, Abraham's family, from Abraham to Jacob. Can we do this? I encourage you. Why? Because that's what Mother is asking all of our leaders to study. And so I spent my last few days just studying Abraham's family. And a lot of things came up for me. And I'm only going to cover a sliver of it, but I decided, okay, for the next few weeks, all we're going to be talking about is Abraham. And I'll just cover the sliver, the very beginning of Abraham's course. And so for Abraham's course, by the way, it starts on page 206. I'll help you out. I'll give you the first step. Go to page 206. And read it. Study it for yourself. See what comes up for you. When was the last time you opened up the actual black book? Not just 1 hour, 3 hour, or the whatever hour. When's the last time you actually opened up the black book? Took a gander. Took a stroll with God and what brought you here in the first place. What stood out to you, what proclaimed itself as truth. Go back to it. Why is Mother asking us to study Abraham's family? You can even start to mull over your own conclusions to that. And in Abraham's family, it starts with something very simple. Is that God calls on Abraham. And Abraham is the idol maker's son. Or as I like to say, he's the son of Satan's best friend. Satan's best buddy, his ride or die. If Satan could have a trust in someone, it was in Abraham's dad. That was the kind of son that he was. He's the son of Satan's best buddy. That's who he is. And God calls on him. What does he say to Abraham? Oh gosh. He says in Genesis 12, get out of your country. He just calls on him and says, get out of your country, get away from your family and from your father's house to a land I will show you, and I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you. That's what he tells Abraham. And so how the methodology of this is simple, is that Satan stole Noah's family. So the previous family, Satan stole that family, and it was God's own. So Satan stole from God's own. And the way that God works throughout all of history is simple. If Satan punches with a right, God is afforded the opportunity to punch with a left. So if Satan attacks me, then I get the chance to punch back. This doesn't pertain to us physically, guys. That doesn't mean you get to start fighting each other, but this is how God advances his providence. He can't throw the first punch because he has to be in a position of a parent. And so Satan steals from God, and God steals back, steals his best friend's son. That's what he steals. And so God calls the most lowly of people in a belief that he can trust that person. God believed that he could trust Abraham. We could run circles around here for days on end, for the next 365 days, from the testimonies that our parents have of where they were before they joined the church, of who we were, what we were doing. God can call anybody. So that's the context. But then God asks him to leave his home. And there's a story of him leaving his home, and then he's asked to kind of wander around with his wife and his belongings, and then he ends up in Pharaoh's land. Do we know this story? Basically, Abraham is called out of the Ur of the Chaldeans, and he's called to go there and take his wife with him, take his servants, take his belongings, all his wealth, and then God brings him along this course of wandering around. And then he ends up in the Pharaoh's home because there's a famine. He needs things. So he goes to the Pharaoh's area, and he goes on that trip. And Abraham knows that when the Pharaoh sees my wife, she is so beautiful, he's going to take her. He's going to take her. And so he tells Sarah, his wife, this is crazy to me. He tells Sarah, his wife, can you be my sister? Can you just pretend to be my sister? And then the Pharaoh's going to take you. But God tells me that he will bless us if we do this, if we hold on. And so when the Pharaoh takes Sarah for himself, God begins to chastise the Pharaoh, gives him crazy dreams, gives him dreams of death and of pain. And so Abraham is able to take his wife back along with the nephew Lot and abundant wealth, which the Pharaoh just hands to him. Just get out of my country. Get out, get out, get out. You're a curse. And this was a restorative course that he went on. And of course, we understand that this was kind of reestablishing Abraham in the position to make the offering. But what this is that Abraham had to make a condition. He had to do something of a sacrifice in order to win God's trust. God had to know, in the divine principle says, God had to know that he was in right faith. And he had to demonstrate right faith by walking this course. It was a requirement. And all Abraham had to rely on was the voice from God. And he trusted the voice from God to go that course. And he left his comfort zone. And I feel we are in the same situation in our lives. We are so comfortable in our homeland. We're so comfortable in the concepts and in the desires of our own selves. And we're unwilling to hear God's voice, listen to the voice of God, and walk out on faith, trusting and knowing that God's going to take care of it if we go there. Because God needs us to earn his trust. And we earn his trust by facing those moments. Amen? Hyojanim would say, to Yonanim at least, even if you have met with difficulties in your life, you should say, I am grateful to God that I could take this path. So even if God calls you out of your inheritance, out of your homeland, out of the place that you're comfortable, even if it's challenging, even if it pulls the most out of us, we can still be grateful because we're earning it. We're earning our right with God. Now, there's another aspect of the beginning of this story that I think is huge. And this is and that's that it wasn't just Abraham. It was his wife. I want you to place yourself in Sarah's position. I was demonstrating this with Takayo the other day. I was trying to help her to kind of see this. I was like, Takayo, imagine, we were like in a Starbucks, and I was like, Takayo, imagine if I came up to you And I said, trust me, God spoke to me. I need to give you to the Pharaoh. She's like, oh, no. Like, no way, not in a million years. You kidding me? That wasn't God. That was someone else's voice. That was your own mind. You're crazy. Imagine you're in Sarah's position. Sarah's trusting that Abraham is hearing God's voice and that God's going to take care of them. I find that to be even greater faith. She is trusting Abraham fully to do something that's absolutely crazy. To pretend to be a sister knowing that the Pharaoh is going to take her. This is incredible faith. And oftentimes we say this. I really don't like this phrase. So we can learn to cut this out of our lives. Is that people say behind every great man, baloney. Every time in Providence, it wasn't behind every great man. They made the offering together. They always made the offering together. And so this morning I spent some time after I started digesting that. I took some time this morning. I was just reading Yonanim's life, because that was Hyojanim's wife. And we know Yonanim now. She's like the leader of all leaders. She's so close to Mother. And I was so moved by the unity that she had with Hyojanim. She really understood his life. And they walked together in those times of trial with one another. They stood with one another. And she had these words to say right after he passed on March 21st. She says, please don't forget, there were times when Hyojanim was misunderstood. There were times in his life when he made mistakes. But the truth always prevails. We may not know it now, but because there is a future that knows that truth, because there is a history, Hyojanim never expressed nor excused himself and silently continued on his path. No one knew him more deeply than she knew him, because they stood together. They made that offering together before heaven. So we do the Providence as a couple. You go forward as a couple. You're not alone. We're not alone in the offering that we stand before God and God trusting us. It's us as a family. So Takayo and I, it's everything we do together. Everything we do together. No word that I ever say, I don't brief on her first. I don't know if you know that, but I tell her everything. And if she ever says that something is wrong, it's cut out. You won't hear me say it, because she's the absolute. We come before it as a couple. And then God looks upon our family and says, okay, I can trust you too. But just because we earn God's trust, it doesn't mean you can't make mistakes. Parents, do you trust your children? Actually, maybe I shouldn't. Okay, one parent, one mama. When your children make mistakes, do you still trust them? But do you require them to make up for their mistake? You don't require them. You trust them. You love them unconditionally, between them and God. I know, you say it to me. God can still trust you when you make mistakes. And the key is just whether you're learning and you're committed to continue to go forward. This is why I personally love Hyojanim's life. When I think about Hyojanim's life, I feel so much grace. It doesn't matter the mistakes that I go through, as long as I don't give up. If I don't give up, then God can still work with me. So we just don't throw in the towel. We don't throw in the towel. And Abraham's life is exactly this. Abraham makes a serious mistake. And we'll get into it later, but he makes a serious mistake. But God gives him another chance. God gives him another chance. He has to. So as we reflect on Hyojanim's life and we consider the way that he lived, and we embed that into our soul, and we try to, go out and be more extraordinary, be better, and make more effort. I want to at least leave you with something that's simple you can do. And that's read Abraham's course. Just take time with it. It's very simple. Open up that black book. Dust off that, dust that thing off a little bit. But, go a step further and buy one of the covers from Shigeko-san, Make it look pretty. Open it up and ask God, what do you want to teach me? What do you want to teach me through this? Why would Mother ask all of our leaders to study this? And study it. And then share your insights with someone. Don't keep it to yourself. Share it with your wife. Share it with your husband. Take this week. Is that okay? Can I ask you to do that? I always feel like by the end of my sermons, I'm just pleading. I can't force you to do anything. I really can't. I'm just a guy on a stage. I can't force you to do anything. I can just suggest. Really, just try it, and then come to me next week and let me know what came up for you. Let me know. I'm serious. Give me a phone call. Give me a phone. So as I close and I invite Matt-san to the stage. God works with the central figures that he trusts. And we earn God's trust by fortifying our hearts and in love with God. And then we make a difference in the world. So I want you to soak in Hyojanim's spirit. This is our elder brother. He's younger than some of you, but he's our elder brother. And he stood the test of time. It wasn't the mistakes he made. Those things allowed him in the final moments of his life to offer his pledge before heaven. In your final moments, what will people know you for? What did you commit to? Did God trust you? So please receive Matt Ishizuka as he sings Hyojanim's song.
나를 끝까지
Thank you, Pastor Holmes and the Los Angeles Family Band. I'd like to make a couple of announcements before we close out today. There is a 7-day Chonshimwon workshop in Las Vegas in April, the 2nd to the 9th. You can find out more at chonshimwon.org. Find out more at chonshimwon.org. We do have regular Sunday school every Sunday. If you would like to bring your children, please sign them up in the courtyard, and you can just send them straight up. Every Sunday. Next week, Dr. Young will be in town, so if you come to Sunday service, you will see him. That is your warning. Next week, also, any young unificationist, Kayleigh Moffitt, the new president of Women's Federation for World Peace, is coming and would like to meet with you and share some of her thoughts and her heart. And it's a unique opportunity, so if you are a young unificationist, please join with us in the conference room on Sunday after service. So those are our announcements today. Please welcome back up the band.
Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful Sunday.
우리 행복해 정말 다시 지야 나의 만족은 바로 당신이잖아. It's you 당신이잖아. 자깃한 목소리로 with a cool voice 자깃한 목소리로 그대로 나에게
everybody. See you next Sunday.